Great. Okay. All right. So with this Sumo Logic, what I wanted to do is today and the next couple of hours, you'll be going through not only some overview about Sumo, and I'll be showing you some demos, as well as you'll be getting some hands-on lab experience. So I'll be walking you through some labs so that you can actually follow along with me. And I'll explain how to do that when we get to that point. So there's 5 steps to becoming a certified Sumo user. The first one is, we're going to demo a use case, and I'm going to familiarize you with our capability. The second is you're going to learn what the data is available, within Sumo Logic and where to find it. And then you're going to be doing searching and parsing and also analyzing data in Sumo. And you'll see it doesn't take very long for you to be able to do all those things pretty quickly in Sumo. And then learning to do trending analysis. So being able to look at your data over time and then monitor critical events. So we have several ways that critical events can be alerted to you, as well as if you're watching the screens. And then the last thing is we will be taking a certification test at the end. So all of this is to prepare you so that you will be able to fly through very easily with our fundamental certification test. Usually people, we give an hour at the end, about an hour, and I will stay on the line and be able to answer questions and chat if you have any questions. And you'll be able to log in and bring up the test and be able to go through the test, and average is about 30 minutes for people to take it. So it might not take you the full hour. So with Sumo Logic, the first thing I want to show you is how Sumo Logic can help you today. So basically, with our continuous intelligence for all your modern apps, which is basically looking at your data that's coming in and being able to support that across a variety of applications that you need support. Operational analytics. So this is where you can look at your data and be able to look at creating that good user experience, being able to make sure things are being kept up and running, being able to reduce that mean time to look at an indication of some failure that you need to go through and resolve, being able to look at your better app performance. And then on the security side, we also offer that secure cloud workload environment, and we also have a complete list of compliance. So we work with the different security compliance out there, and we already prep that so that it's much easier for you to do what you need to do to keep your security compliance under regulations. And then also business analytics. Faster time to market, because you're able to make decisions off the data that you're seeing. So you're being able to display that data so that can give you a more advantage competitively, so that you can offer that to your customers, all those advantages. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about that. Let me take you in now to the demo. And in the demo, I'm going to be showing you the alerts. We'll look at alerts, which you'll see, I'll bring up dashboards like these. And you'll also see metrics, which is, of course, what is the values that are in the data that identify what's going on in the system. So kind of the symptoms of what's happening. And then the logs, we'll also take out logs, and logs is to identify what is actually happening in the system. So this is all the event records that are happening. All right, so with that, let me bring up our Sumo Logic. So this is, let me do one more thing. This is basically our, can you imagine as a customer that you have a similar system to this? Of course, it might not be for travel, but Travel Logic is a company that allows you to book travel on this site. And you can arrange your flights, your hotels, car rentals, and that sort of thing. And so Travel Logic, this company, they need to be able to monitor all this activity going on in their system and make sure that the system stays up and running, as well as being able to identify if they're being successful, how their business is doing. So Travel Logic, let's say if you work at Travel Logic, that you get this Slack alert from your Sumo channel that's telling you that something happened in the system. So here I'm showing something happened in the system where we got a gateway response time outlier. So Slack gives you this alert, and that's something you can set up in the Sumo environment. So then, of course, now I need to kind of figure out what's going on, what happened in the system. So then what I do is I can just log in. So I've logged into my Sumo Logic account at Travelogic, and I start to look around and try to figure out what's going on in the system. But just to give you a little bit before I dive into figuring out what's going on, just like I was showing you in those slides, showing the different features that we offer for operations, let me show you a little bit of that too here. So I'll start with business overview. So this would be a dashboard that you could define in your system very easily that allows you to be able to monitor, and up here a real quick kind of alerts indicated with color status. So these are for payments coming into this Travelogic website, applications, how they're doing, and website status. And so the color is a quick indicator to let you know what's happening. And then you have your flights, your hotels, and your cars. And you have down here all of your, let me scroll down, all of your flight bookings. So here you have for the flights, the hotels, and the cars that are actively being paid for and booked online. So this is showing you in this one, you can see from a business perspective, you can see by hovering over, this is the actual data coming in, showing you your bookings that are coming in over time. So here we're looking at from like 7:20 this morning to 8 o'clock. And so these bookings coming in over time, and then this kind of cloud around it is the thresholds that you've set up in your statistics. So basically, you know, if you have 1 standard deviation, 2 or 3, depending on what you've set up in the system, this is the cloud that kind of hovers around that. So it's really easy to see how you're doing. Now notice over here in the middle one, we have this like pink. If you notice where I'm hovering, and I'll move a little bit to the side so you can see it, because when I hover, as you can see, pop-up information comes up that indicates what's happening in your data. But right here, this pink, that actually indicates that there's an outlier, and you can see another one over here under the car bookings also. So the pink would be a quick indicator for you to see, oh, we had something that happened back here at this time, and there might be something going on in the system. And then, of course, you can display your data in many other forms, and that's what I'm showing down here. You could have the circle graph, which gives you a snapshot view of what's going on with all 3 areas. You can also arrange it over time in a bar graph that you can use, and you can also just give textual information, which in this case, you're just giving a metric data point so that you could monitor your hourly bookings, which might be helpful. So this might be something for the business overview. Then if I go here with security, for those of you that are looking at, you know, managing your security, which is very, very important, one of the things that's going on with this is we're looking at, this is in Travelogic, they're looking at moving a migration from a non-SSO environment to an SSO environment. So they're still monitoring that with some of this information in here. This one here is showing them threat intelligence. So we can see that this particular IP address had a sum of 109 attempts. So that might be something that somebody might want to be able to track, of course, with this panel in the dashboard, and to be able to go and investigate. Suspicious long distances was somebody that at this particular user, they've logged in twice in 2 different IP addresses, and they're a distance within a short period of time, which would be something you would set up in the system as a criteria, between the United States and Egypt. So that might be something, maybe they legitimately went on business travel and they're over there working with a customer, or maybe, you know, it's something suspicious. And then the network traffic and data exfiltration. This is showing how your node activity is, the volume that's being sent in megabytes to each of your nodes. And with the color indicators, you can see which nodes are the most active. So that might be something helpful. And you can see the volume of data running through them. And then over here, firewall traffic types. And then down here at the bottom, firewall traffic volume outliers. And here now you can see, once again, the actual data coming in, which if I hover over, it gives me the tracking information on the data. And then when I get to one of these pink triangles, once again, that indicates there was an outlier at that point. So that's the kind of information we get on the security side. And then if I go into the Travelogic operational overview, So this might be something that you would set up for your operators that are monitoring the information, maybe 24/7, and a lot of companies have their operators over 3 shifts, and their eyeballs are on these type of charts, trying to make sure that everything is kept up and running, and monitoring, backups being done, and in this case, how the nodes are reporting, load balancers, the virtual private network, redish issues, checkout, and all of these things can be provided here. And so a quick, exception type of monitoring. So now I want to kind of take you into, we got that Slack message back here, okay? The Slack message telling us that we had a gateway response time outlier, and it was an anomaly detected in the gateway. So now if I go back to my Sumo Logic and I'm looking here at the operational overview, I can see that there's some things in red that might indicate something's going on, from that Slack message. So now it seems to me that as I look at this, that I might need to go down and investigate one of these. And it looks to me like the checkout service has a lot of errors at 6.57K. So I'm going to start there. I mean, you would start somewhere debugging what's going on. So all I have to do in Sumo Logic is click on that panel, which is what I just did on that alert button, and it takes me down, in this case, to how I've designed my dashboard, which it takes me down to an underlying dashboard, so another layer of dashboards, which has the services details on it. So now with this, I can actually see what's going on with my system. And in this case, when you look at this bookings, we'll start with this panel, and we'll kind of work our way across. When you look at this bookings panel, this is basically showing you, and let me make this a little bit bigger, okay, that might be more helpful. And if I want to enlarge things, I can just use this magnifying glass. So let me pop this guy up so that you can see him a little bit bigger on your screen. So what this is indicating is I've had all this green here, which means that everything is going along just fine. I mean, I had one little data metric point down here that was an outlier for a data metric, but everything was going along pretty well. And then I have another data metric here right at 8 o'clock. And what I'm looking at now is there's obviously, it went into the brown, which indicates that there's some kind of error happening in the number of bookings. So all of a sudden here, a little bit after 8 o'clock, I started losing bookings. People weren't able to book on my website. So you can see up here, we have also the green indicating successes and the kind of yellow gold indicating failures. So that means something's going on with my bookings. My bookings stopped. So then if I go here and I look at my errors in the last 7 days, the errors, and let me make this one big also as we go through them. So if I look at my errors in the last 7 days, with this type of information, we have this feature which allows you to look at the errors over the last 7 days. And you can set it up in different ways. You can look at it in different, it doesn't have to be 7 days, but it can be, in this case, we're showing 7 days, because I want to look at a week's worth of data, because typically things, routinely cycle through in that cycle for this travel logic company. So if I look at this, I'm seeing that I had this huge spike all of a sudden happening, and of errors that came in right around, once again, the hour, 8 a.m. this morning. So I can see that. Now, it might be kind of hard to see other things because, this is maybe could be blocking them. So one of the things that's a nice thing you can easily do is you can just click on the errors up here. So if I click on errors, it removes that data that I was looking at that showed that I had some problem happening starting this morning. And now I can see, were any of these showing? And none of them are. In fact, you can see there's a 0 indicator. So day to day, it's telling me I didn't have errors yesterday, I didn't have errors 2 days ago, I didn't have errors 3 days ago, but I did have errors today and right around the hour. So this is also useful. As I'm looking in this, I'm having some issues. Trying to figure out where I go from here. And now errors by node. So if I click on this errors by node, bring that up in big screen for you. I'm looking at this and it's showing me that I have my production travel in checkout, my production travel nodes up here that if I click on them, you can see that it's telling me over here that these are for checkout. So basically, when my customers are trying to check out, these nodes are having errors. And both of these are checkout nodes. If I hover over, you could see right here that they're both checkout nodes, and here, okay? The other ones are not having any issues. So now that tells me something's going on with just my checkout nodes for my customers. And then just looking, I'll kind of circle over here so you can see some more. This is our gateway latency. And if you remember, that's what it was indicating, is there was some issue that happened for gateway latency. So if I make this bigger, this is the one that's showing the latency delta. So you can see here at 7:25, and then again here at 8, that there was right here at the hour, 8 o'clock, a little bit after, that there was a huge spike. So that means all of a sudden we had this huge latency issue that happened on the nodes. So I want to investigate that a little bit more. So I'm going to look here. I have my CPU and total memory. CPU and total memory, and it's showing me, and let me make this bigger because it's so hard to see when it's just on a small. So here I have all my operations that are happening for CPU and total memory. And I can hover over each one individually and take a look, but it's pretty obvious as I look at it that I have, once again, this huge spike that's starting to happen. It's starting to build, and then it really crescendos right at the hour and creates these two outlier metrics that you see. The little circles are outliers for metrics. The triangles are outliers when we have log data. So basically, I am having some problem, and if I hover over it, do you see what it's telling me there to the left? It's telling me that it's the travel checkout node once again. So I need to be able to go in and investigate this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the screen back, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into the into this. If I click on Show Metrics, it takes me behind the scenes to the actual query that was used to create that dashboard panel. So now I've gone inside of, so from this dashboard panel here, I've just clicked on this query right here that allows me, now it brings up the query in a new tab. So that's what's happened, is now it's created this new tab. As you see, I had these 3 dashboards, and then I went and drilled down into this other dashboard, and now I'm in the metrics tab. So now this is bringing up the, in the metrics tab, it's bringing up the query that underlies that particular dashboard. So when I'm taking a look at this, I can see, a little bit more about what's going on in that particular panel. And what I'm seeing first is down here, this is the actual query data. So for this, you can see that here's the CPU metric, here's the memory metrics that are being used, and here's the source of the data. So this is taking it from the production travel. So you can see some of that information. But as I look at this, I can also see the spike once again going up right here. And if you notice here, I have this kind of heat map of orange, different shades of orange. Now, if I, over here, it almost looks kind of whitish, right? So here I have maybe 49 log messages. This is basically telling me, this heat map, how many log messages have come in over time. So as you see, as I move, it's tracking it in that 1 minute quantization that I've requested in this query. So basically every minute it's telling me how many log messages come in. And then notice here with the spike, all of a sudden I went from, something in the 30s or 40s to way up here in the 250, 300 range. So what I can do is, we have this feature, to go now drill into those log files, is I can do what we call a shift and click, which now will take me down into that actual log messages that came in at that time where it spiked. So now I'm looking at those log messages, and here with the log messages, I can actually see, a little bit more information. And so let's kind of walk through what you're looking at. So up here at the top, I'm showing the source category, and I'm showing that it's the production environment for this Travel Logic company. And I'm looking at everything in this to create this information. I'm looking at everything that's connected with that travel data source. That's what the asterisk means. It's a wildcard. And then I'm highlighting errors or exceptions. So if you look down here, this is the panel down here that shows all of the different messages. So here I have the error being highlighted, and if there were some exceptions down in here, I would see those too. So you can see that it's highlighting all of those. So basically like doing a search through the log messages. And then what you're also seeing here is you're seeing a time stamp. So you're seeing 8:06 and the timestamp for today. And you're also seeing the messages, the actual log messages. This is how they look. Right now, they're being shown in this format, but I could also view them as raw or view them as JSON, so I can toggle between. So now, as I'm looking through this, I'm trying to figure out, what is happening in the system. And as I'm looking through them, I see also that I have this helpful histogram up here. It can be helpful, but I can also hide it. So that's something that I can do. I could show where I can hide the histogram. In this case, it's not helping me with debugging at this time, but I'll just leave it up. So now I'm looking at this and I'm trying to figure out what I need to do as far as the debugging of this. I'm looking at, I'm displaying over here the errors, and I'm seeing that I have a problem with the checkout node. So maybe the thing is to do is, maybe I need to isolate it down to just that data coming in from the checkout node, because obviously that's what it was showing me. So I'm going to get rid of this asterisk up here, and I'm going to put checkout. So then now I'm just going to be looking at the checkout nodes. Now, also, things that happen in the system might not always have an error or exception that created the problem. So just to be verbose, I'm going to get rid of that so that now I'm just looking at everything in the checkout node. So the way our system works is that I can either hit a return right here once I've made my changes and I want to rerun them to get that information, or I can walk over here and hover over the start button and I can just click the start button. And so I click the start button and now you can see it refreshed, and now it's looking at all the travel checkout logs, and you can see the pages went down in size quite a bit so that we can actually see that. So now I'm looking at this and I'm looking at it and going, okay, what's going on? I can see my checkout nodes. Well, I could start digging through these 48 pages, but that would take me quite a while. So one of the things that you can do in our system is you can group the log messages by their category, basically their commonality. So that's called a log reduce. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the log reduce, and that will actually add this. If you see up here when I clicked on that, it piped it with the vertical bar into the log reduce, and now you can see that I have all these, I'm going to go ahead and hide the histogram so you can see more. I have all of these messages down here that are telling me what's going on in my system. So I can start to look at them, and it's building up the messages. You can see the count here of how many messages I've had. You can look at the actual messages that have been grouped. So I've had 206 of these types of messages. I've had 197 of this type of message. And as I go down, it brings up the higher volume ones. Well, typically an error would be something that's more of an exception, right? Something that maybe might only have happened a couple of times. So I'm going to actually sort this, just like you would do in other applications. Just click on the header. And when I do that, then it brings up the information, and it's telling me that I'm basically need to look at the data in the system. So here it's telling me I have an error on that. So I'm trying to figure out what else I could do with this. And when I look at this, I'm kind of saying, okay, how can I get down to that error, and what do I need to do to be able to do that? So I've looked at the checkout node. drilled down into the log file, looked at the checkout node. I'm looking at my exceptions by using the log reduce command. I'm able to do that. And when I see this, I'm seeing that I get my errors. And in this case, it's showing me that I have this timestamp that's happened. And let me do just a quick refresh for 1 second, see if I can get this updated. There we go. All right. And then sort. Okay, so I can see here that when I get down into this, that it will tell me that I have my checkout successfully processing the payment, and I'm having this line, and then, oh, here's where my problem, I've had this bad shakeout. So here I can actually see, you can see right here, I can see that I have my error on this, and when I look further into it, I find out that, oh, I set up something, somebody released something into the production environment. So that allows me, then I can go back up here, and it makes sense that I'm getting the errors and why I'm seeing the problems on the checkout nodes. So this is a way with Travel Logic that they can actually go down into their system and figure out how things are running in their system. So with that demo, I don't know if anybody has any questions. Let me monitor my chat a little bit and see if anybody has any questions in the Q&A window.
It looks like there's one question about the relevance measuring.
The relevance measuring.
Yeah, Al, could you just clarify what exactly you're interested in learning a little bit more about? Oh, in the drill down?
In the drill down, the relevance, was it in one of these? What is the relevance measuring?
Let's see, I'm trying to get a little more information here.
Oh, sure, it's the column in the last tab, he's saying, or she is saying. The column in the last tab. Oh, this one? This tab?
I'm not sure. Let's see. Why don't you go ahead and continue, and I'll try and answer this directly.
All right, we'll try to answer your question, and we'll come back if and let other people know what you're asking. All right, very good. So I'm going to continue on while Josh is investigating that, and I will show you a little bit more about our system. I want to kind of walk you through a little bit about our abilities with the with our system, and allow you to be able to go in and play around once you get into your training environment that we're going to be giving you access to here just shortly. So basically, let me get my slide here. All right. So basically what we just did in the demo is you saw that we got a Slack alert. Now you can set these alerts up. They can be webhooks or email alerts, but I showed you the Slack webhook one. And so you get an alert, and then you have metrics in the system, and then you drill down into the log files to identify what's going on. So that's basically what we did in that lab. So with the system of Sumo Logic takes your data, and the data from all the collectors that you defined. In that case, we're looking at our checkout nodes, right? So you takes your data from your collectors, and then it passes those through for search and analyzing. So that's all the operations that we have, and I'll be showing you a few more of those operators here shortly, and the different charts, and we'll be actually creating a line chart in the labs. And then finally, to being able to see the data so that you can visually see it on the system and monitor it. And that's through the alerts and the dashboards. So when we're sending data, we have many ways that data can come into the system. So we know a lot of you are using cloud systems, but some of you are using combinations of cloud systems as well as from host and local data. So we have ability with Sumo Logic to basically work with you through your firewall, so it allows you to collect your data from your installed collectors that could be on servers. We also have the ability to work with all of these different types of, AWS, Docker, Azure, the different kinds of containers like with Kubernetes and Docker. So all of this is supported whether or not you're in whichever situation your status is as a company. We can pull data in from all those sources. Now, sending data, when we send data, what the beautiful thing about the Sumo Logic system is that we allow that data to be attached to metadata. So what is metadata? Just, it's an industry term, but just to make sure that that we're on the same page, metadata tags are associated with each log message that is collected. So every log message that comes in, we will attach metadata tags to that. And we have some ones that are system defined. And so the tag names are over here. So when you see underscore collector or underscore source host, those are tags that are system defined. And we've given them a specific description because we need to make sure we needed to have certain tags that had meaning in the system so that we know how to grab the data that's coming in and attach the appropriate metadata to them. So the underscore collector will give us the name of the collector, and the source host will give us the host name. And when you see source name, that gives the path and the name all the way down to the log file. And then underscore source is the name of this data that comes through. And then finally, this is the one that you'll see a lot, and that's why we've bolded it, is you'll see underscore source category. This is where you can freely configure it, and we'll give you suggestions as you work with us. There's plenty of documentation that we have about how you might want to configure it, because most of our customers, they'll go from something more general to more specific, from left to right. So in this case, we're showing a lab environment, and then specifically the application, which is in this case Apache, and then finally we're focused on the access part of Apache. So from general to specific. And so the source category is what allows us to identify where your data is coming from. All right, so now let me go back to, I want to show you a little bit more, and then we'll get into the labs. So with our system, you can actually, let me get to where I left off. Okay, sorry, just queuing myself up a little bit. Want to make sure I cover everything for you guys. So we have in this, in our user interface, when you open it up, when you log in, this is what your screen will look like. And in this case, I'm going to walk you through just a little bit about what all's on this page. And I'm going to get rid of these guys because this is what your page would look like. So when you log in here in a moment, you'll see that you have the Home tab, the Learn tab, and the Certification tab. So let's talk about those first. The Home tab is where we're going to be mainly working out of when we're creating stuff in Sumo. The Learn tab, and we'll be using all these. It shows you your recently opened dashboards. If I had done any pin searches, those would be listed here. A pin search is something that allows you to run a job. Let's say the job takes a while because you have a lot of data or you're requesting a lot of data from your database. So that might mean that you need to run it a length of time. Maybe it takes a half an hour or an hour to run. And so you can actually run it in the background. So that's what a pin search is. So you can create background jobs and then check back on them later. And it'll actually send you an alert letting you know when it's done. So here we have the Learn tab. This is where, as a new user, you might want to spend a little bit of time, because what's helpful here is we have at the top a whole bunch of kind of quick start helpful videos that will allow you to get up to speed a little bit more on how to use Sumo. And then down here, we have two different things. You can, how to use Sumo tutorials listed here, specific topics, and how to also set up Sumo specific topics. And then over here on the far right, you'll see these 6 boxes, and each of these icons, you can click on them. I'm going to click on the cheat sheet one, and you'll see another tab pops up. I still have my Sumo Logic over here, but now I have this new tab that popped up, and now all my log operations are listed. And so this might be a nice reference sheet as you're getting familiar, you start to create queries in the system. You can actually go in here and you find the helpful information on all of that. So that's the cheat sheet. You also have access, we take you right to documentation. And then what's new on the system? And so what's new on the system, and then asking for support. So here is puts you in complete contact directly with our support people, and then getting training. This would put you in communication with our group. We go out and we do trainings at customer sites. We also work collaboratively with you to offer trainings in your area. So just if you're interested in that, you can get training. And then community, this could be really helpful. Once again, it will put you in contact with people that maybe have a like interest. So maybe there's another person, if your company's doing travel, maybe there's another company out there that's also doing travel, and maybe there's something that they've put out there that might be helpful to you. So, so with that, then let's look at the certification tab, and this certification tab is where we'll end up at the end of today, because we'll actually go in here and take the exam. You would not want to do it in this training environment. You'll want to do that from your own instance, but that's where we'll take the exam. Other things is, if you look here to the left, you'll see this black panel here, and you can look at your recent. When I click on these, I'm going to go back to home. When I click on this, I can go look at my recent files that have been open. I can also look at anything that I favorite. So at any time I can make something into a favorite, and then it would be here for me to use. And then here in personal, I have here in personal, then I have basically all of the stuff that I have worked on and I've saved. So this is my personal workspace that I get to work out of and save things. And then over here is the library. So the library is anything that somebody else has shared with me, whether it was the administrator when they first set up the system or other users have made available to me. So those are all those. And then down here you have the app catalog. And the app catalog, we're actually going to install one of these apps in the labs. The app catalog allows you to look at any of the apps that we have, and you can see we have over 200 different types of apps listed here. And right now you have all categories, but you could go right to the DevOps, all the things that are important for that. And then you can just click on these, and it's very easy to install them, and you can be up and running with their dashboards. So like if I click on Amazon ECS, you can see that we already have worked with Amazon to create these wonderful dashboards, and you can actually preview them and take a look at them. And then if you want to preview them, that's right here, and you can take a look and see what that dashboard looks like. So this gives you access to a whole bunch of app catalog down here, gives you access to a whole bunch of different interfaces with our partners. And then manage data, this is where you would go and you can actually click on collection. And this is showing you, when you click on collection, this shows you all of the sources that are coming into the system. So this is all of the data that's coming in to our Sumo Logic system. And here I'm showing, we were just looking at the one for Travel Logic. You can see that on this system it's set up a little bit different, but you can see we have Kubernetes, we have AWS, we have quite a few different things, Cisco StealthWatch, Palo Alto Networks. So all of these collectors are coming into the system, and this is basically our training environment that you'll have access to play around with. And then settings, this is where you could go in and do field extraction rules, partitions. Partitions is how your data can be partitioned. You can design that as makes sense for your business. Like maybe, you know, you want to partition it, you know, for more backing up, maybe that sort of thing, or maybe you're partitioning it also for the combination of being able to search quickly on some data. Scheduled views, metrics, connections, data forwarding, logs to metrics, all of this is set up in your settings. And then alerts are noted here, because after you've set up alerts in the system, sometimes you maybe you're new, maybe you came on new to your company recently, and you need to go find out what are all the alerts that we have set up. So you can go right here to that and look at that. Administration and then online help is down here. So if I click on help, you can see that besides going to the help that I was showing you before through the tabs up here, you can also access all this help down here. So it just gives you another way to get access. All right, so that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview. So what I'd like to do now is take you through just doing a query, just basics of getting started. So I'm going to go back up here and get rid of some of these things that as I clicked on them popped up, just so we kind of clear. So the first thing I want to do is, in order to create something, is I can click on one of these to actually create, you know, in this case I'm going to click on a log search, and when I click on this, it pops up a search tab, as you can see here. Another way that I could have opened it up is by clicking here on the plus new. And when I click on that, you can see it gives me these options. I have log search, metrics, live tail. So in this case, I could have also opened up a log search by just highlighting there. So there's usually more than one way you can do it. And then now that I have this open, what is on the screen? The first thing here is this is the query window. So when I clicked in here, you can see that some pops up of some helpful suggestions of maybe something I might want to type are listed there. I'm just going to put in the word Mozilla and hit return. When I hit return, it's the same thing as clicking on the start button. And when I do that, what happens is it pulls up the information from all sources in the system, and it's just searching through all the log files, and it gives me Mozilla. And so with this, I have all the searches that you can see Mozilla, just like when I had errors and exceptions, it was highlighting the errors. So down here you can see Mozilla is highlighted everywhere as I scroll down. Now you can also see I have a huge number of pages. You can see I'm on page 1 of page 4075. So that's quite a bit of data that I have right there. But I'm also looking at this data in the last 15 minutes. Now I could change that. If I click on this last 15 minutes, it retains that information until I change it, but I now have these two tabs. I can look at a custom one. Let's say, you know, one of the operators called in and, you know, gave me a indication that something had happened while I was on vacation, you know, a couple of days ago. Would I go back and just at least evaluate it? So I could go back and I could highlight that particular time frame that in a custom one. I can also, I have all these quick reference ones in the relative, so I can look at data, yesterday's data, I can look at the last 3 days, I can look at this month's. Right now I'm just looking at a few minutes of data. So I'm just, in this case, I'll maybe move it to 60 minutes so I can look at 60 minutes worth of data. And then when I click the start, you know, that's what that does, is it brings it down here. If I use receipt time, you can see that as I hover over that, it says search for messages based on when they're received, not by the dates parsed from them. So I have that option of turning off the parse dates and just using the receive dates, because that might be helpful for debugging. And so you can toggle between those two options. Gives you lots of flexibility. If I want to show this in my favorites, if I create this query and I want to show it in my favorites, then I would hit the favorite button and I would star it so that it would now be in my favorites. Save as allows you to save, so you can save, give it a name, whatever you want to call this particular query, and give it a description so that when you come back in here, maybe a month later or something like that, you remember what this does. And then you can also change the time range or use receipt time. And then down here, it defaults to your personal folder. So it's going to put it in this personal folder that's indicated with the little person in that folder, which is where it's going to save it. Or if you have privileges, you can save it in other places that you might have access to, depending on how you set it up. Real quick, if you want to make it into alert, you just click on search down at the bottom, and you set up the time frame for when you want it to alert. If I wanted to alert every 15 minutes, and then you would fill out all this information, making sure you have sending it to a person's email, or you can, as I said, you can do a script action, a ServiceNow connection, a webhook, or save to index. So those are our different alert types. So really easy to set up an alert. I'm going to cancel out of that because I don't want to set up email messages for myself right now on something. And that's the info button that just gives you whatever description you've typed in about it, quick access. Share allows you to, this is really important, share allows you to get 2 different links, and we give you a shareable search link, or you can get this paste code search query box link. And the difference basically is the shareable link, it gives you access to the query. So when I share this with another coworker or with a group of business analysts that all need to be able to do this query within my company, I can use either way. If I do the upper one, then they're just going to have the link. They're not going to have access to the actual code with that. So the best way to share, the more recommended way, is if you really want people so that they don't make changes to the query and things like that, is to share it with the bottom one. So you would just copy this, and then you would be able to share it in a variety of ways that you want to do it. So that is the share link, and you have a couple different ways of sharing in your company. And then pin is, this is the background job. I can set this up, like let's say it takes a while to run. I don't want to wait, and maybe I just want it to notify me when it gets done. So I would just pin this so that it runs in the background. And then live tail, this allows you to look at the data that's actually coming in. You know, we're looking always at the last 15 minutes or the last 60 minutes or the last 3 days. But what if you want to look at the real-time data coming in? So that's what you can toggle to, live tail. And when I do that, it will allow me to look at my data that's coming in real time. And then this is the histogram. The histogram can be very helpful because it's showing you the information that's coming in as I hover over them. So here I have my messages at 10:33, 10:34, 10:35, and the reason why it's going minute by minute is because I'm looking at 1-minute intervals, looking at the last 60 minutes. So I've set this query, you know, so that it defaults to a 1-minute length until I change that. So the time slice that it does by default is 1 minute. So now down here I have the display field. So the last thing to talk about is this area, the display fields, and you can see that I have both a green on time and message. So over here, that's what I'm seeing. Time and message are the column headers for the data that I'm looking at. So if I'm interested, I can turn on any of these other things. So let's say I want to see the collector too, the collector source that it's coming from. So I can click on collector, and that would pop it up to the top, and that allows me to see the collectors then. As I scroll down, I can see the labs, Netscope here, and other labs, DevOps, and things like that, other types of collectors. So I can toggle these on and off at will after they're defined. You do have to define the metadata here. So this is displaying all the metadata name tags, and then this would be the values that would be shown here. So when I clicked once again on collector, now I'm seeing, and it's showing me a little, when I clicked on just collector itself, this is another feature that allows me to see some of the collectors, and I can quickly go down into them. So it's looking at the top 10 values of those collectors and which ones are bringing in the most data at this point. So right now my Apache's bringing in the most data, and then these other ones. So that gives you a nice look at the system and a way to look at your data. So now what I'd like to do is show you a couple of parsings. I have one already set up that I'd like to show you first. And it also shows you the feature of I've saved this, I've saved it in my personal, and I've also made it a favorite. So let me click on it. When I click on Quick Start Regex, so I click on that, you can see that it pops up over here, Quick Start Regex with its title. And now I have a brand new query window which has that command that I put in. So now what I've done is, before I was just looking at the keyword Mozilla. Now with this Quick Start Regex, now I'm indicating that metadata type that we look for, underscore source category, and I'm pointing at the Labs Apache Access. So now I'm specifically just looking at data that's coming in from Lab Apache Access. And so Lab Apache Access is then also keying off of Mozilla. And then the next line on this command is showing me that I'm going to do a parsing. So I kind of want to show this step by step. So I'm going to comment. A comment is just double slashes, double forward slashes. So I'm going to comment out this before I run it. And let's see, I think I'm looking at enough data, 15 minutes. All right, so this is what I see, is when I click start, is now I'm looking at just the Mozilla. So now you see that I have the Mozilla is still highlighted because that's what I have here as a keyword. This is a keyword associated with the data coming in. So basically, it's as that data comes in from this source category, Labs Apache Access, it highlights that string. It's searching for that string, and everywhere that string occurs in the log message, it highlights it. So that might, right there, might help you solve your problems, just even something that simple. But now I want to show you this parse command. So what if we want to get this IP address? We want to get all these IP addresses. So you can see right here that I have an IP address. I'm trying to highlight it. Hang on, right there. So I want to highlight that IP address. So the way that I can do that is I can use a parsing command to actually pull that out and make it its own metadata. So in order to do that, I'm going to use this command called parseregx. Now regex is a common term in programming, means regular expression, and I am basically, with this command, I'm stripping off the IP address. I'm naming it IP address here. That's what this first part does. And you don't have to actually know this code. We have a lot of examples that you can pull from if for like IP addresses and other things that would be common in different log file sources. But this is just an example. I just figure I'll explain a little bit. You don't have to be a syntax error. But notice when I clicked on it that this helpful parse regex also popped up. So as you're creating stuff, you can quickly reference the actual, you don't have to go back to that cheat sheet that I showed you every single time. A lot of information's in here that will help you real time. So basically, I can see that to use the parse regex command, I need to basically give it some kind of header, a tagging association, and then I need to strip off the digits. So as we see here, it's going to grab 3 digits, a period, look for a period, grab 3 more digits, look for a period, grab 3 more digits, which is the format for an IP address down here. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to hit start, and we'll run that. Now, what you'll see is that over here, I now have a metadata tag of IP address, and then I have all the values underneath the header IP address. So right here in this middle column. So I have all these different IP addresses. Okay, I could even search for a specific IP address very easily, that sort of thing. So that is one parsing, one additional way to filter it. Let's look at another one because maybe you need more information, and you'll actually be doing this next one in the lab. But let's go ahead and let me just duplicate this. So up here, you can at any time just click on the tab, and you'll see these 3. The X deletes it, of course, but if you want to, you can just click on these 3 here and the 3 vertical dots, and you can see this is where you could pin it to run it in the background. You could rename it, duplicate it, close other tabs, that sort of thing. I want to just do a quick duplicate. So now it's going to create a duplicate of that, but I don't want to use this command. So I wanted to duplicate that first line, but I didn't want any of this. So I'm just going to delete the bottom line. And now what I want to do is I want to do what's called a parse anchor. And maybe some of you have some experience doing parsing and you know how to use an anchor, and maybe some of you are sitting there going, I've never heard of that, don't know how to do that, not sure if I want to do that. but basically, I'm going to walk you through. It's really simple. So the first thing is we need to get our data back. So I'm going to run the command so that we get our data down here. Now we're looking at this data. Now what are we going to do with it, right? So one of the things is using the parse anchor is you can actually grab all your data. So I'm grabbing all my data. Do you see me highlighting it? And you'll have experience doing this just shortly. And then I'm going to right mouse click, and it says, do you see where it says parse selected text? So I'm going to parse selected text. So when I click on that, you see the pop-up, that window that happened. So now what I'm doing here, my objective is I want to parse information out of all these log messages and have it organized so that I can clearly see it in categories as metadata tags. So basically with this parsing, the first thing that I want to do is I want to pull out this IP address, just like we just did, but this is in a different way, using a parse anchor. So I highlight, the way this works is now with this box, I highlight the first thing that I want to parse in all these log messages. So this is not just going to affect this one log message, I'm setting up a parsing command to affect everything, and you'll see that in a moment. Then click to extract this value. When I do that, notice that it replaced all that I selected with an asterisk. Now I need to give it a metadata tag. And I do that down here in the fields area. So I think with this first one, I just call it an IP address. And then I'm going to create more. So I'm going to put a comma so that I can create more. And then now this next area is a timestamp. You can do this many different ways. I'm just going to grab what's in the brackets. Maybe that's what I want for my timestamp. I just want that information. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm just going to call that timestamp. And you don't have to put the underscores. You know, this is not case sensitive. You know, you can see here when I hover over it, it says, you know, to enter the field names and then separated by commas. So it gives you some instructions in case you forget when you go in there. The next thing I want to grab, I basically want to grab a lot of this message so I can parse through it, is I'm going to grab the URL. So now I'm going to highlight from here the URL to the end of it. So I'm going to grab this and click. And now, once again, it put the asterisk there. So now I have 3 asterisks, one for IP address, one for timestamp, and now I'm going to create one for the URL. So I'll put in URL, oops, got to type right, URL, comma. And now this last one is I'm going to grab, this is, and you don't have to know these log messages. Maybe somebody in your organization would probably even set this up for you, but just showing you how it's done so that you'll realize behind the scenes when you're just even using it, how it works. So that was a status code. So I'm going to put in status code. So just really easy to kind of walk through this. The next one that I want is a size. And then I just click on the size and then come down here and add size. So now you can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I should have 5 asterisks up here if you're following what I'm up to. Now the last thing is maybe I want to grab the refer. So I'm going to grab everything from this HTTP. So now I have the user information that was accessing this. And for me, I'll just grab the refer information. I want it all. So I'm just going to grab everything between those 2 quotation marks, and then click on that, and then type in refer. So that gives me all the user information that was accessing, you know, the data. So now I'm going to go ahead and I just click submit. I have all this up here. I've parsed through it with an anchor parse. And now you can see the command is just plunked right down in the query. So there I have my parse command. And now I need to, this is the old information, I have to run it again because now I have that new command up there. So I'm taking all my data once again coming in from Lab Apache Access. I'm stripping off, you know, identifying that string Mozilla, and then I'm parsing everything through to extract those fields. So I go ahead and hit start. And you can see couple of things, and I'm going to hide the histogram because we're not really using it for what I'm showing you right now. The time, the IP address, the refer, the size, all of these have been brought up to the display field. They're no longer in the hidden, and they're defined in the system. So even if they weren't defined down here, which some of them possibly were, now they are defined. So now I have time, IP address, refer, size, status code, timestamp, URL, and I can search on any of these fields as a unique, because I've done this parsing. So now I have all my metadata and my metadata values listed out in column format. So anyways, that was probably the last thing I want to show, because I already showed you the managed data. I'd really like to now take you into the labs and let you get your get exposed to more what you do with the labs. So one moment, I'm pulling up my slide that gives you that information. Okay. All right. So we talked about quite a bit of this in through here, and I was just talking about parsing. Maybe just real quick, I'll show you this slide. When we were doing the parsing, here we had the source underscore category, okay, and we were actually using the Labs Apache Access and the Mozilla. So we were looking at, when we talk about metadata, we're looking at the metadata that's coming in and then the keywords. And then this shows you we use the parsing commands. In the labs, we're going to use the filter, the aggregate, and also formatting. So you're going to learn more of these as we go into the labs. So now, how do you get into the labs? Let me go back to my slide here so that you can all log in. Let me make this bigger. So now what you're going to do is you're going to bring up a browser and type in service.sumologic.com. And I'm pausing so that you can be starting to do. So now this is the part where you'll learn more about Sumo if you log in and actually play around with it. So that's why we designed these labs. So service.sumologic.com. And then once you're in that, and I can also do it real time too. Once you're in that, then type in for the username training plus labs at sumologic.com. And the password has 2 uppercase letters, a 0 in the middle, and an exclamation mark. So there's an uppercase S, an uppercase L, a 0, and an exclamation. So just make sure that you're typing in uppercase S, lowercase u, lowercase m, 0, uppercase L, A, lowercase, lowercase b, lowercase s, and then an exclamation. And as you're doing that, I will pull up mine too. I'll be getting it ready. And if you have any trouble, I don't see anything in the Q&A right now, but if any of you are having trouble, because I know there's quite a few of you out there trying to log in right now, please let me know in the chat window and I'll be paying attention to it specifically. So once again, you're going to open up a browser, type in service.sumologic.com, and then you're going to, that will bring you to the Sumo Logic login, and it'll be asking you for your username, and you're logging into our training lab environment so that you can do these labs with me. So training plus labs at sumologic.com is a username, and the password once again is uppercase S, U, M, 0, uppercase L, A, B, S, and exclamation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this real quick and I'm going to throw it into the chat window just in case somebody is having a little bit of issues with it, and so it's there for your reference, okay? So I'm doing that right now. Okay. All right. All right. So hopefully everybody got in. All right. So now the next thing that we're going to do is, let me slide that off and bring back our Sumo Logic. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is you should have a screen like this up. And it's fine if you go in here and you click around. You can't hurt anything. You know, it's our training lab environment, so please don't be shy. You know, as you click on things, you'll notice I am getting tabs up here, so you might need to go through and clean them up. But in order to get to the labs, what you want to do is click on certification. Do you see certification here at the top? Click on certification. So certification then, these are the 4 courses that we currently have. By the way, we're working on 3 more courses that will be featured in September, middle of September at our Illuminate conference in Redwood City, California. But we would love to have any of you join us there. But we have the fundamentals is what the course we're doing right now. And you can actually do any of these on your own time because the way they're designed is also for self-paced. So I think it's sometimes nice to have an instructor, but it's also kind of, some of you can learn quite a bit just on your own time. So you can use these quick start webinars to get that information similar to what I just was going through. And then the tutorials is where the labs are at. And then we will not be taking the lab in this, the test in this environment because you want it to attach to your name. So be thinking about grabbing your credentials, making sure you have your credentials for your Sumo Logic. If you don't have credentials, there is a way that I can help you create them, but it's not the best because it'd be better for using your company one, your particular instance. But click on tutorial for right now. You're going to click on tutorial. So right here, tutorial. If you click on that, then you'll see that it takes you to using Sumo Logic, and you should have 7 labs showing up, part 1 through 7. So 7 different labs showing up. So these are the tutorials for fundamentals. And just in case I did that too fast, let me do it one more time. So you click, if I'm back here on the home, let me do it all from scratch. Certification. So you click on certification up here. And then down here, you click on tutorial. And now you should have this additional tab. Now you can toggle between these 2 tabs. That's what we're going to be doing to do all the labs. So now you have this additional tab that will give you all those 7 labs that we're going to be going through. All right. All right, very good. So it's very simple to follow these labs. I will be walking you through them. I might put a couple off where you guys I'll give you a certain amount of time and let you guys do them, but I want to make sure you're comfortable. So I won't be taking you painfully slow through all of these, but at the same time, I don't want to lose people that maybe are doing this for the first time. So click on viewing data, part 1, viewing data, and let's begin the first lab. Now, let me just look over. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. Looks okay. All right. And I'll try my best to monitor the question answer area. All right. So viewing data. So to get started, we want to just make sure that you see the data. So you've already signed in. So you've opened up a browser and you've already signed in. And now from there, you can see, you should have a window that looks like that, which we do. If I go back over here and click on the Home tab, if you've clicked on other things, then just click the Home tab again, and it'll take you back to the starting window. So you should have a window that looks like that. And then the data that's available. Now, I showed this, but you should know how to do this. So let's go do this. Manage data collection is where we're going to go. So do you remember where that was? I'll walk you through and show you. So if we go back, we're going to go to manage data. So where's manage data? Well, manage data, oh, I'm getting a survey. Manage data is right down here. So at the bottom left, it's just the, 4th thing from the bottom. So I click on manage data. Manage data then allows me to do a lot of different things, and I was kind of highlighting these earlier. We're going to go into collection. We want to see, the first thing you probably want to know if you're getting familiar with the system is my data coming in properly, right? And what data is coming in. So this gives you the full picture. You can see all of the collection of data. You can see the status of those collections of data. You can see if some of you might have ingest budgets set up in your system. It depends on if you've designed it that way, but you can also do ingest budgets. So collection is here, so you can scroll down and you can see, this is what I was showing you before, and you can see all the different things that are available in the system. You can see that there's some controls over here that allow you to, manage that data, show where the source is coming from, edit the system. You can upgrade your collectors. You can add collectors up here on the upper right. There's setup wizards that are available for setting up your collectors. So there's a lot of stuff. We do a complete course that's called our admin course. So if any of you need to be able to set up collectors, that would be a course you might want to also take. All right, so now we've done that. So we see all our collectors, and now the next thing is we know where our data's, where all the data's coming in. We have a whole bunch of data that's coming in, obviously. Now the next thing it wants us to do is to click that new tab at the top, and you're going to see this pop up, and then you're going to open up a query by using the log search. So let's do that. So I'm going to go here. So I can click on, with all this up here, I can click on this and press click on log search. So I did the plus new and log search to bring up this plus new log search. All right. So now what I want to do in this lab is I want to do a search. So the first thing I want to do is create a search. So if I scroll down, I'm on, if you're scrolling down with me, the first thing I'm going to do is go and grab this command down here in step 4. So I want to see, we just looked at the data. What this lab is about is we just looked at the data back here in the collection tab in using manage data collection. And this is our system's way of quickly showing you. But you can also set up a query to actually look at this. So we're kind of showing you that also. So what we're going to do then is grab under step 4, just cut and paste. So just highlight it, click copy, or however you cut and paste on your system, and then take that back and drop it in, paste it in. Okay. And let's see, does it want us to do anything else? I think that's basically it. It doesn't want us to change anything else. So just using the defaults, last 15 minutes. So go ahead and either hit return, so I'll hit return this time, or you can hit that start button. Now what you can see here is all those same data sources from a source category are listed here. What this did is it did an aggregation. So I still have my underlying messages, but it created this new aggregate tab. So you could actually click on messages and go back and look at the data we were just looking at. Or you can now look at the aggregated data. Now, what is aggregated data? It means that you've done something to group that data. That's basically it. So in this case, we did a count. We took all the data coming in. That's what the wildcard up here in the command does. And we piped it. So we piped the all data coming in through an aggregation count. So we did an operation. So when you do an operation, that gives you your aggregated data. An operation on your data, I should say, gives you aggregated data. So now we did that, and we counted by the source category. So now we can see that we have 165 labs artifactory requests. We have 25 Samuel. We have 651 labs Zscaler. So we can see all our data sources coming in. All right. So that's really easy query to do. Let's go down. And that was, of course, giving us our everything in that 15-minute interval. Now we're going to find and display a shared dashboard. So we're going to go use the access that has been provided to us, shared with us on the system through the library, which is this little folder over here. So I'm going to go now to the library. And I'm going to click on library. All right. So now it brings up all of these things that are shared with me in the system. Okay. Remember, this is recents, favorites, personal, and library. Okay. So library is, this is my personal working space, of course, where I can save things and work on them. And this is anything people have shared with me in the system, the library. All right, so now I have that. Now I want to enter Apache access in the search field and press return. So you can grab that if you want and copy it and paste it. So I'm going to enter Apache access. Now I'm not pasting it into the query, I'm pasting it over here because in the library now I have a search window. So now I'm going to search for anything that says Apache access. Okay, so now hopefully you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, which is Apache access. So click on Apache access. And it wants us to open up one of the dashboards. So it will find a particular dashboard. So it doesn't matter which one you open up. This one we open up Apache Overview. So if you want, you can do the same one the lab's doing, or you can look at any of the other ones. Apache Overview is right here, so all that means is I click on it. Now notice a couple of ways that our user interface works. Do you notice that we still have everything we've been doing before? The tabs are still there, but now we have this new tab for this dashboard. So that way you don't overwrite stuff unknowingly. I mean, you have to actually go up here and get rid of that, like when you're done looking at that query or whatever, or working on it. So you can open up a lot of other things and be looking at different things in the system. All right, so this is a dashboard. A dashboard is constructed of what we call panels. Talking just a little bit now, you can actually click on things in this dashboard. So I'm going to just go to this one down here. This was a little different than how we've looked at things so far. I'm just going down to this one. Also notice this one here, you can scroll. So you can actually have lists. You can create lists in your dashboard panels. So when you're looking at a dashboard, first thing is maybe it's too small. So you just want to make it bigger, like your boss comes over or some colleague and you want to show them something, you want to show it bigger. So you can do that and just magnify it using that little magnifying glass. For those of you that didn't see that, click on that little magnifying glass, okay, and then you'll see. Okay, now I've created an average line that's allowing me to see my trending, on top of this bar graph, which is really nice, of total traffic volume and bytes served. So that's really nice. If I want to, I showed you this earlier, toggle off something, like turn off that. Like maybe that's in your way and you don't want to see that. It's a little bit annoying. You don't want a picture of it. So you can toggle these on and off. So that's your dashboard, and it's really easy these are all the ones that we make available. We make available a whole bunch for all our different apps that I showed you down in app category. So we'll be taking a look at these apps here in a minute a little bit more, but under app category you can look at all of those. All right, so let's go back to the lab. I think that the last thing is actually going to the app category and installing an app, so that you get an idea of how easy that can be for you. We're going to install an Apache app. If you want, you can try something else, but I will go ahead and just follow along with the Apache app. So the Apache app, the way that you get to that is first thing you do, maybe I should go back to the lab. First thing you do in this lab, and we're at the very bottom of this, is we're going to click on App Catalog, and that was down here in the left, and then enter Apache. And then once we have Apache up, then we're going to double click on Apache and add it to our library. Okay, so let's go back and do those step by step. So the first thing we're going to do is to install an app and view its contents is we're going to click on the App Catalog. So go back to your Sumo Logic, click on App Catalog. Oh, I see there's a question. Hold on one second. The question is, if we keep a lot of dashboards, would that many queries stress our servers or networks? No. No, the data is coming in regardless. The display is not a big deal. No, it's just you need to manage how much data. The big thing is managing the data flow that's coming in. That's the big throttle in the system. But yes, you can have as many dashboards open just being displayed. That does not impact the system. Not tremendously, not in comparative to the actual data. Good question. All right, so now we clicked on app category. The next thing in the lab is it says to type Apache up here in the search window. So now I see that I have Apache and Apache Tomcat. I want just Apache, so I'm going to click on Apache. And now to add it, I add it to the library. Now maybe you're not sure if you want to add it. Remember I was telling you before you could click on preview. You can even go to the community to learn more about it. We give you some helpful things that you can do. You can also go in here. Do you see that I can actually go inside the app, and let's say I want to even just see what is Apache overview, and it gives me a little bit of a description about what I'm going to see on those dashboards. So as you're looking in the app catalog, beyond Apache, you can analyze all these things. You can look at the queries, and it will tell you a little bit about the queries. So see, it's telling you just a little bit about what that query does. Okay. So that could be very helpful. Here it's showing you the actual query on the right. So you can preview, is what I'm trying to say, but we're going to add it to our library. That's what our lab. So click on Add to Library. Now what do we do? Okay, so now if I go back to here, I got this pop-up window, and you want to make it look like this. So basically, it comes up saying Apache, but now you need to add the Apache log source and the Apache error log source. So use labs Apache access and labs Apache error. So we're going to go back and type those in. Labs Apache access and lab. Now, because I've entered these before, it's bringing up helpful hints. So as you do things repetitively, you'll get these helpful hints also in your own system, okay? So now I have labs Apache access and labs Apache error, and then I just click Add to Library. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed an important thing. You need to name it something unique to you. I'm just going to put my initials after mine and then click Add to Library. Sorry about that. If you got that same error that I just saw, it's because I didn't give it a unique name, because we got quite a few installed Apaches at this point. So it warns you that you're overwriting. I guess you consider that a feature too. All right, so Apache, now that we have this now loaded into our system, so now when we hover, this app now is now in our system, so now we can see that Apache should show up for us, and we can now actually share it with other people. Like, let's say you want to download an app and then you want a whole bunch of developers to start doing stuff with that app, for your DevOps sec environment. So now what you can do is you can go here, and I find my Apache. Now the one that I had was Apache JS. So if I go back here and I go Apache JS, there it is. There's mine. Okay, so find yours by doing the search just like we did a few minutes ago. So you should make sure you're clicked on the library still, because that's where it downloaded the app to. And then look for the name that you had and then click on your name. Now, all of this can be shared with other people, and you do that by clicking here on the three vertical dots. Some people call this a more. And then you do share. And you can see that you have other features that you can also do. You can export this, you can create a new folder and organize it in some way. You can make edits to it. I just want to show you now in this lab how to share it. So now I clicked on share. Now if I go back here, what I want to do is I want to share it. Now you can share with users and roles, as you see here. You can share it a variety of ways with your organization. I know this is very much an RBAC kind of concern, so we give you the ability to share across. It's up to you to design it the way that you want your roles and responsibilities. we're going to go back and we'll do the commands now. So we're just going to share, and we can set it up. You can type in, we have some, if you click like I just did, we have some you could share with administrators, you could share with training analysts, or I'll just share with analysts right now. So now anybody that has that user role of an analyst would get this Apache JS. And it will notify them. I can turn that on or off, notification, but I want them to be notified. Over here to the far right, I have the ability to change the RBAC control. You know, do I want them to be able to edit it? Do I want them just to view only? Maybe in this case, I just want them to view it because they're analysts. Maybe they're just going to take the data. They don't need to be able to modify anything. And then I can also, let's say I'm new to the organization, or it's been so long since I looked, I can check to see who else has access. And then just share. So now I've shared that to all the people that were under analyst. So it's really, you know, we foster a sharing environment. It's what works well at our company, and hopefully a lot of other companies can benefit from that. All right, so now we finished the first lab. That wasn't so bad. How's everybody doing? I know you can't tell me too much other than the Q&A window, but hopefully you're doing okay. So let's go into the next lab. Now this is searching for log data. So you're going to actually get into the query. So I'm going to kind of stay with you and kind of walk you through this one also, and then I'll, you know, at some point I'll let you do it just lab without me talking over you so much. But here we're going to search for the log data. The point of this is to create a query so that you get your feet wet and you feel comfortable that if you needed to do a query, you could do it. And so the first thing we're going to do to creating a query is we're going to go back to part 1 and where we had the Apache access data, and we're going to search for log messages within that source. Okay, so we're going to look at everything in the Apache. So the first thing you want to do is open up a brand new log search. So plus new, we're going to click on that again, and then log search. And I'm going to do it a different way than the lab's doing it because I just want you to see both ways. So instead of doing the plus new log search, I'm just going to go back to the home tab and click log search. So I went back to the home tab. You either click up here, or if you're already on this page, you can just click here, and then log search. Just so that you see that you could also open the same thing this way, or you can go up here, plus new, and log search. All right, so now I have my window open, and now the next thing it wants me to do is it wants me to put this into the query. So what this is that we're cutting and pasting, so copy it and paste it in, is it is giving us our source category, which, as you know now from seeing it several times already in the demos as well as now in the labs, that is telling us we're defining that we're looking at specific data that's coming from this particular source, which is an Apache access for our lab environment. And then this here, when we do the end get, is a keyword. So the end is always implied. We don't actually have to have this. You would have to have, it's implied in our system. So I'm showing it for verboseness in this particular lab, but you don't have to have the end. Just like before, we just had Mozilla here. So you can try it either way with the end or not. But some programmers prefer to have the verboseness, so you can have the end in there, but it is implied. It would work the same regardless. So now that we've done that, we've put that in there, okay? Oh, and a note, because this might be a test question at the end for certification, I want to help you out by pointing this out. Keywords are not case sensitive. So when we use these keywords like get, it's going to find get any case sensitivity, right? Whether it's uppercase, lowercase, or a mixture of both. And then step 3, if we move on, now we're going to pre-configure the time range. And I was showing this before. We want to change our time to the last 60 minutes. So going back here, and then we're going to click start. So we're going to go in and change the time and click start. So over here is the time. So you just click on the time. Yeah, I know that just how our UX works. You just click right on the time. And then I want you to choose in the lab, it's telling you to choose last 60 minutes. So choose that. And then all you have to do is hit the start command. Now remember, when you hit the start command, it's going to create messages down here. So I click start, and here's my messages. Okay, so now here's all my messages. And I can see the get is highlighted, just like the Mozilla was highlighted before, right? And I can see that I have time and message now in the display fields. They're not hidden, right? We always provide the time and the message. So now that is my source. So I can see that I'm keying off of that particular source and looking at those messages. And this is just talking you through that the gets are highlighted. Oh, another thing is, I hadn't talked actually about this line. I'm going to go back and talk about the results line back here. So when you click start and you get your results down here, as it's creating those results, it will tell you, it will actually show a little spinning thing here that it's processing. Once it's done, you'll know it's done because it says done gathering results. Because sometimes that's an issue for people, right? Maybe you've requested an enormous amount of data and you don't even realize that. I remember when I started working with this type of systems that I didn't always understand, being maybe new to the project or something like that, that I was requesting a whole bunch of data. So if this little guy keeps spinning, you can always just quit the query and do it again, type of thing. It gives you your elapsed time, so you can see we're just at 4 seconds here for what we did. It gives you how many results came in. So here you're getting the page indicator, but if you want to know line row by row how many results of log messages came in, here it's giving you the total for the last 60 minutes, right? And then it also gives a tagging for the session ID, and that's not usually that important, but it can be like if you're troubleshooting something that's going wrong for you and you're even starting to think, oh man, is it something with what, do I need to track this with the help of Sumo people? And that we'll use this, support people will use this to help track it for you. Okay, so anyways, that's a little bit about the status bar. Now the last thing is we go into parsing the messages. So now you're going to do a parse command. So here we're going to do that anchored parse where you grab, you highlight information in the log message itself, and then you right mouse click, and you get the parse selected text. So let's do that, and then you'll see this pop up down here, but let's just do that part. So everybody, we're going to go in and you can see we're going to highlight everything from the around the get command. Well, around the get, I shouldn't say the get command, but around the get, all the way to the end of it, okay? And then we're going to right mouse click. All right, so let's go do that. So you can choose any of these, doesn't matter which one. I'll go to this one, okay? So I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to start highlighting. So just hold down, and I'm going to go all the way to the end of it, okay? We're just not going to do as much so it's not as taxing as a lab, because you'll get the same idea whether I select all of this log message or not. All right, so then right mouse click after you've highlighted it, and when you right mouse click, then you'll see this pop up, and then go to the second one, which says parse selected text. So this is our anchored text. So now, once again, just like I demoed to you a little bit earlier, you have this information in that action pop-up. So now what we're going to do is, what information do we want to parse out of this? And you can do something different than the lab just to play around with it if you want, but if you want to follow the lab, which I'll just keep following the lab, is the next thing is it wants us to take the company. So it wants us to extract the company value and then place that in a field called URL. All right, so I'm going to extract that first field. So right here to there. And then I will highlight that, and I will call it URL. So you see that it created the asterisk on exactly what you highlighted. And now you don't want to do a double extraction. It's kind of doing that. I mean, we won't do that. But you'll now have URL type down here. We're going to pull a couple of more things out. So you can see it's very small, but you can see it puts a comma there after the URL. So you'll want to add the comma. And then we're going to go after a couple more things in here. So we're going to pull out status code and size. And it looks like we're also pulling out refer. Okay. So status code, size, and refer. So status code is right here. So here's my status code, the 200 in this example, my particular one that I grabbed. And so I put URL, comma, status code, comma, and then the next one it wants me to grab is the size. So I'm going to grab that size and then click on the extract and type in size, comma. And then the last one it wants me to grab is the refer again, so the user source. So I grab everything at the end, just grabbing between, because I don't want the quotations necessarily. So I just want that part of it. And I will call that refer. All right, so very simple. Now I have extracted 1, 2, 3, 4 with the asterisks up here, fields, and I should have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the reason why I count is because when I was first doing this, sometimes I'd make a mistake and I'd have the wrong numbers. But you should have extracted 4 things. If you even just extract 1 thing, you'll still get the idea, so don't sweat it, okay? Click on submit. And now I put the command in here. Now it hasn't ran until I click the start button or hit a return. So now going back to the lab, I think that's the next thing that it wants me to do is just to start it. Yes. So after I've put that in, and you should have, and now if you messed up, you can also recover by just grabbing this, okay? By the way, if you did mess up, so let me do that. Let me copy that. Let me show you how you would fix that, because maybe somebody's out there going, I don't know how to fix this. Go up here to the top line at the end of it, click at the end of it, hold down, on my keyboard, it's Shift-Enter to do a soft return, okay, so that I get an open line, and then hit paste. And you can actually put that command in there. Now it has a little bit different spacing than what I did, but it's fine. Either one would work the same. All right. I'll just comment that one out. Remember, you comment out by putting in 2 forward slashes. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and start. And now you see what it did. Just like when I demoed before, you now have all of these display fields brought up to from the hidden. If they were newly defined or previously defined, now they're brought up here. And then, of course, time, refer, size, all of those are listed here. So you can, I've shown this in the past, but maybe some of you might want to click on that. When you click on any of these, it brings up the top 10 values so that you can see based on an algorithm that we've defined in the system. Okay. All right, so now you have all that information broken out. Now you could play around with, any of this information because now it's tagged in your system instead of being in this long log message, which is kind of cumbersome to look at. All right, so that is basically it there. Now we want to save our search. So now we actually already did this for the Apache dashboard, but you can do it again if you would like to. It's basically just saving the search, and you would put it in your personal folder. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick. So now if I want to save this, there's several ways I can do it. One of them is to go here and click Save As. So I'm in that particular one and I say Save As, and just make it something, once again, unique. Whatever you call yours, I'm going to attach my little initials to it so that we're all creating something that doesn't overwrite each other's. And then you would just hit Save down here. You can put in a short description. You could even change the time. You could change the location based on your access of where you want to do it. If you wanted to set up an alert, you click on the schedule down at the bottom, and then you could set up an alert that runs every 2 hours and sends the email to this, or does a script action, whatever it does. I don't really want to set up one, so I'm just going to cancel out of creating an alert. Where do we go? Once again, I'm ad-libbing a little bit here, but where do we go once again if we want to look at all the alerts? We go to Manage Data down here at the bottom, click on Manage Data, and then click on Alerts. And this shows all our alerts that are set up in the system. Because this is a training environment, we don't have, I guess we have one that was created here. So you can see that there was one created for CPU load, and that's it. Okay. All right, so now what's the next thing? We're going to go on to the next lab. And I'm looking to see, oh, somebody's having a problem. They're saying this is not working for me. Help me out. What part was not working for you? Hello?
I'll take care of it. You can continue.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, Josh is going to communicate with you. Thank you, Josh. All right, so the next thing then is go on to part 3 of the labs. So clicking on part 3, so you should be here with me now. So now we're going to chart our data. So now charting your data is basically we're going to be able to get a visual of our data. You know, we've been looking at all those nice panels. Well, how do you create that yourself? So the first thing is we're going to aggregate our search results. So in this case, we're going to open up a new search query box, and we're going to add a new line to it. In our existing search query box, we're going to add a new line to it. So we're going to add count by status code. So this new line, so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it. You'll see when I go back, I'm going to paste it on the very last line. So that's where it's showing here in this example just below. So we're going to first get some aggregated results. So if I go here, I hold down Shift and click Enter. So Shift, Enter, and then paste. Now it's going to give me a count by status code. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Start. Click on Start. Now I have an aggregate tab. I still have the underlying messages here. I can click on that tab anytime and go back to what I just did. But now I have this aggregated data. I can now look at all my status codes because remember, I pulled out status codes right here. Status codes is now a metadata tag that I can use. So I put for my metadata tag, I said I want to now take all this information and count it by status code. So now it's showing me all the different types of status codes. Some of you might be familiar with these HTML status codes. You know, if you get a 200, that's a success, for example, and a 404 means it can't find the page. So it's giving me the totals for all of those. So really quickly, you can get aggregated data. Then what we're going to do in the lab, if you go back here, toggling back to the lab, you should have gotten this display. Now we're going to add a time slice. So this is nice data, but we want to actually look at it over time. So we want to take this aggregated data and look at it over time, right? So we're going to add this time slice, and we need to put this above the count operator. So it's going to be above. So not at the last line, but just above. So I'm going to copy it, pipe time slice 1 minute, and I'm going to go right here at the, in my case, right after the parse command. And I'm going to put a Shift, Enter, and paste. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking all this data and I am, before I aggregate it, I am basically setting it up as a time slice so it'll show it in 1 minute intervals, okay? 1 minute buckets. So if I click Start, now what you'll see is you'll see that I now have this in 1 minute buckets. All right, and then I'm going to come back here and I need to add the count operator to read. So I need to tell it what it's going to time slice. So on number 2, take the count operator. So now it's going to take, I've set up the time slice parameter. Now it's going to count by time slice and by status code. So now this, I want it to go on the last line, okay? So I'm going to go back up to here, and I'm going to go Shift, Enter, and paste it in. And I just realized I want to put that actually, will it still keep it? No, I have to get rid of that. All right, so we're creating, I'm just fixing mine. What I did is I put it above instead of below. So I have to have this below. So I'm just grabbing it again. So I'm grabbing my time slice once more and I'm putting it right in there. So now I have my parsing, my aggregation, and then I'm now controlling how it's going to display the data. So you should have created these last two lines, time slice, 1 minute, and count by time slice and status code. Okay, so now instead of showing it in these, let's take a look and see, adding the time slice, what that does. So click Start. Oh, what did I do wrong? Field message time not found. Oh, I forgot to put the underscore.
No,
Right?
you have a count above that time slice.
Oh, I got to get rid of the count.
Yeah, you have two counts in there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so make sure if you did the same thing as me, get rid of the count. All right, so now you should just have the source category, the parsing statement, then time slice, 1 minute, and then count by time slice. Yeah. And then click Start. All right, there we go. All right, so now we have all our times here. So now it's showing us the times, and we can see 8:06 today at 10:51. That we got a status code 401, and there's 86 of those. And then at timestamp today, at 11 o'clock, we got a 200 at 2,800 of those. So you can actually see, all these different timestamps. Now, the problem, though, is that these timestamps aren't organized in any way. So we're going to play around with this data, because part of this is, as once again I was telling you, we're going to learn how to do time sliced looking at data, but we're going to also do aggregation, which is the count, and we're going to learn more about formatting. So we're trying to get this eventually to a line graph. So one of the things we can do is we can transpose our results to actually see the data in the way that we want to see it. So what we can do is we can add this transpose command. Now, a transpose command is basically just defining what we want to appear on the rows and what we want to appear in the columns. So in this case, what this command's doing that we're going to create into our query, add to our query, is it's just making the formatting that on the rows we want to have time, and on the columns we want to have status code. So we're going to create this look. So go ahead and copy that under number 1, and go ahead and add it at the bottom. Now, once again, if you're doing any recovery, maybe you've kind of messed up somewhere in here, maybe my mistake, I just did might have messed you up, then just grab this whole thing and throw it into the query so you can kind of get back up to where we are, okay? All right, so I'm going to go back over here and do a Shift-Enter and paste that guy in there. So now I have this transpose command, and like I said, it's going to create the time slices in the rows, and now going across here, we're going to see all the status codes. So let's go ahead and hit Start. And now, and I'm going to hide this because we're not using the histogram. Now you can see that it has all the time slices on the rows, and in the columns you have all of the indicators for the different status codes. Now the last thing is we want to create a chart. Okay, so we're going to create a chart. So in this case, what we're going to do is it's very easy to take our aggregated data here and display it. So we can basically use any of these charts here, but we're going to do a line graph and play around. You can also play around with the bar graph and take a look at them. So in the lab, first off, I'd like you just to create the line chart. So we're going to go here and just click on the line chart command. So take a look where I'm at. Before I click on it, I'm going to take this aggregated data and display it differently. So now I can see this aggregated data in a line chart. So the aggregated data, if I hover over this one is the 200s, which that makes sense. Those are successful. We're hoping that our system's working, so we're getting a lot of success. If I hover over this one down here, then I'm seeing these are 304s, which is also a good indication of what's happening with my HTTP. Now, I can barely make out these ones down here, right? Once again, this is where it becomes helpful with you click on maybe getting these two upper ones out of the way. So if you click on 200 and 302s and just deactivate them, get rid of my 302. Oh, I'm sorry, not 302s, 304s. Then all the other data pops up, and now it has a better granularity, right? I can see more refined data so that I could look at all my other status codes. So that's an easy kind of toggle on, toggle off type of thing that you can play around with and how your displays are. You can also go look at bar graphs, okay? You can go back to what you were originally looking at, the default, which is the tabular format. You can look at a circle graph if that makes sense for this data. So there's many other ways. You can look at a map. That's what this one is. And you can also look at, display your data in whatever form makes sense for what you're doing. So we created the chart here, and hopefully you've toggled into some of the different features. Now, what if you wanted to actually turn off those in the query itself? So let's say you wanted it always not to have, if I go back to the line graph, okay, I want to turn these off always, because I know that I'm going to have successful. That's not an exception. I just want to identify the exceptions. So if I just want to do that, then I can go back here to my query. So let me go back here to the lab, and I can add this where statement. And so this is a filter that I was mentioning before, where you can filter out, it's saying where not status code equals 200 or status code equals 304. So I'm basically going to filter those out. So if I select that and copy it, where I want to put it is I want to put it right after the parse command and before the time slice, okay? So go back there, and so here's the parse command and the time slice, so I'm going to go here and go Shift Enter and paste it in. So now let's see what happens when I run this. And you can leave it in the line graph, or if you want, you can go back to the tabular form, whichever way you want to see it, but I'm just going to leave it in line graph because it'll be obvious what you'll see in the display. Now you can see that I no longer have those as options here. I cannot look at the 200s and the 304s because I filtered them out with the where command, okay? Hopefully everybody's seeing that on their own screen. Currently, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to keep going on to Lab 4. Now, Lab 4 is where you create and share a dashboard. All right, so creating and sharing a dashboard. What we're going to do here then is, of course, the dashboards is very good for your visual monitoring capability in the system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a panel and add it to a dashboard. All right, so I'll start this lab and then I'll let you guys play around with it, give you some time and let you just kind of go through some of that on your own, and then I'll come back and I'll work with you on the part 5, modifying your dashboard, okay? So I'll be doing the lab too, but I won't talk in your ear throughout this whole lab, and this will give you a chance to kind of walk through one of the labs a little bit more on your own. All right, so creating a panel and adding it to the dashboard. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to add a dashboard. Okay. Oh, hold on a second. Click on add a dashboard from your aggregates tab, so you can see right here that you're going to add this that we just created to your dashboard. So right here, if you following where I'm at, on the right side of your display of your line graph, your line chart, you're going to click add to dashboard. Now, in the lab, you can either add it, it's telling you to add it to your Apache, so you can create a new dashboard that's called Apache Status Codes, and name it something unique under your Apache, so make sure you give it a unique name so that it's identified with you. So let's go ahead and do that. So you're just going to put in the Apache status code, and then you're going to click on Apache under personal. So click on personal, and then click on Apache that's under personal. So let's do that. All right, so I'm going to call mine, I'm trying to remember, what did it want me to call it? Apache status codes. So I'll just copy that, paste that in, clean it up, and I'll just add my little initials to it. All right, so Apache status codes. Hopefully I'm not overwriting somebody else's initials. I apologize for that if I am. And then we're going to go to Apache. So just scroll down and grab your Apache. Now my Apache, I'm going to create an Apache JS because I want to just create a new one. And I'm going to add it to my Apache under personal. So that's just fine. So I'll just click add. Oh, hang on. Add dashboard, Apache. Do it again. Okay. And then my personal. And here's my Apache JS. So I've clicked on, I've added my panel title, I've added which dashboard I want it to go to, which I'm creating this new one called Apache JS. I've clicked on, if I go back here, I've clicked on personal, and then I've clicked on my Apache JS. And then just say add. So now there is my brand new dashboard that I'm creating that will have that line chart in it just in a moment. Now, while it's doing that, I can continue on. So I'd like you to actually keep going from step 3 now. Add to create a panel. Okay, so you got the panel and you're done editing. So now the next thing would be is to add a text panel. And then the last thing, so after you've added a text panel, the last thing is you're going to change the look and feel because you can actually drag these around, resize them, and so that's what you're going to be doing the remainder of this lab. And then you're done. You can share it at the end if you want to share it. We've done the sharing a couple of times, so I think you get the idea. It's up to you if you want to do it completely. We do talk about toggling the theme. For those of you that don't like to look at things with the dark background, you can go to the light background and back and forth, and it shows you how to do that with the toggle. So I'm going to let you guys work this. I'm going to be right back in probably about 4 or 5 minutes and give you a few minutes to go through that. Okay? So you're starting on step add text panel, step 1 on this, if you completed that first part with me. Okay, hopefully I gave you enough time to play around with that lab. And the important thing there was that you can see how easy it is to take something that you created back here in this query and add it to the dashboard. And then from that dashboard, that newly, how to create, adding it to a newly created dashboard, and then how to add text information in a text panel. And then you can add, obviously you can go create other queries and you can add their information to the dashboard also. Then playing around with them, sizing them, you can actually select them and move them. So just by grabbing in the center, if you had any trouble with doing that, you just kind of grab in the center and move them, okay? So then the last part of that was toggling, the toggle theme. So hopefully you were able to toggle using the more 3 dots. So you can go here and you can toggle the theme, right? So hopefully you saw that. I'm going to go back to the white because I think it might look a little bit better for what I'm doing. All right, so and then at the very end there was another share, just showing you that from every single feature you can share. So I think that basically gets us through part 4. Okay, so now modifying your dashboard. So now on this one, I'm going to let you pretty much work on it entirely. I'm going to just give you time, and then I'll come back in and show something. Maybe I'll just help you with maybe the very first part of this, and let's go ahead and just get you going on this one, and then you can play around with it. So what you're going to do is after I get you started, then you'll be playing around with just filtering. Once again, you're going to be playing with the filter where you're going to just, instead of looking at the whole world, you're just going to look at the United States. And then down here at the bottom of it, you can just play around with the option of keeping or changing the time range and updating the dashboard, and those types of things, those features of the dashboard. And then that's pretty much it for the lab. So I'll get you started at least. Let's go back to Apache. So we're going to go to the left navigation and click Apache Overview. Okay, so we're going to go back into that Apache app and click Apache Overview. So I'm already in my Apache app. I'm going to go to the Overview slide then. So in your Apache app that you installed, go to Apache Overview. And then you see this first panel, okay? The way that you can, what if you wanted to make a change is what this lab is about, then you would go here. We've already looked at the magnifying glass. Don't be confused with that one. That just makes it, enlarges it, and you can, be able to see it bigger. But over here, we haven't talked much about these. And so this is what you're doing in this lab is you're going to go into the search that actually created this panel. So the query that is behind it. Filters can actually be additionally applied to the panel, and that's what this is talking about here if you click on filters. And then this just gives you the background information that we've created about the panel for reference. So go ahead and click on, you can see right now it's showing the world. Let's make it so that we add that filter. So you're just going to go in here and add that filter. So go back to the lab now, down here in, what step was it? Step 3, you're going to add this filter in, and where you're going to add it is right after the lookup that's happening right here. So this is where you will insert it, okay? All right, and I'm going to let you work through the remainder of this lab. I'm going to give you another 3-4 minutes or whatever to make sure that you can get through the rest of the pieces of this lab. There's not too much after that, and let you see how that filter works. And I'll be doing it also just quietly, okay? Okay, hopefully you had enough time. Now, what I've added mine, updated mine into my display here. And one of the things I also wanted to show out, oh yeah, thank you. I see your comment in there. Yeah, it was taking a little while because we're all doing it. But one of the things I wanted to show you was, and let me make this bigger again, is, and you can open up yours also, is you notice how it has these 18K in yellow and 27K in red, and we're highlighting different things, and then we have the two greens in here. If you click, one of the things I didn't show you about our maps earlier is if you click within these, like let's say you want to get more details about that, do you see that as you click around it that it gives you more breakdown, so it gives more granularity of the geolocations. So here you can see, and we can even continue to click, and I think it'll give us the Hoboken, New Jersey side, and also the New York, Manhattan, or Long Beach side, or whatever. So basically, that's a nice feature about our GeoSearch, is that you can get more granularity by going in to the map. And that's just part of our applications that we support, with that. So anyways, if you didn't see that, I'll do it one more time because I think that is kind of a cool thing. So just maybe go on your own, just click around that red circle that's in the East Coast of the United States, and you'll see that it gives you increased granularity. Voila. All right, so that's that lab. Now on to the last couple of labs. All right, and we've actually talked a lot and shown creating alerts quite a bit, but so this one would be pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to go to that visitor's location search tab that we have, and we're going to click Save As, which, as you know now, when you do the Save As, that will bring up this window that it's showing here on step 2. So you're going to go into that query search and click the Save As. So if we go back to the visitor location, so click on your visitor location up here, click Save As, and you'll have this pop up, okay? Now going back to the lab, what does it want you to do? It wants you to schedule the search. So I've talked about it and showed it a little bit. Now keep in mind, if you actually hit save, it will actually schedule the search. So, so you might want to cancel out so that you don't actually save it at the end. But because if you do save it, like the lab tells you, then you do need to go back in and remove it. Otherwise, somebody will be getting some messages for alerts. But let me walk you through this real quick. So we did this first part. Now we have the pop-up. So we're on step 2. So what you want to do is click on Schedule the Search. So let's go click on Schedule the Search down here. And now what you want to do is set that up so that it occurs every 15 minutes as the run frequency. So we're going to change this run frequency every 15 minutes. And then the further options in here is to set up the email. You can set up their time zone. You can send the notification information. You can toggle on a lot of things to include and not include. You can do it by role categories in your recipients or emails for them, so however you set your emails up. So this is all the following fields that we're going to set up. And then, like I said, it will tell you in here that to click Save, but if I were you, just to avoid having to go back in and clean it up, just, you don't need to do the save. You'll be able to see that, it will create the alert. And then once you have the alert, you can actually get the CSV files and stuff like that. Okay, so let me show you that, and we'll walk through it together. So we're going to set up for every 15 minutes. Like I was saying before, you can change the time range. Maybe you want the last, the time range for the scheduled search to be a little bit different than what it is. So you can set that up for your scheduled searches. So we're going to run this every 15 minutes, and maybe we want to also send the last 15 minutes of data, something like that. And then here you can establish whatever time you're on. We're just on New York time, which is fine for right now. And send the notification, so you can have these different, you can send if the condition is met or every time the search is complete. We're just going to leave it every time the search is complete. We're not creating a conditional, but if you wanted to, you could create a conditional. And then just the alert types. Once again, we have email, script action, the ServiceNow connection, webhooks, and also save to index. So you can choose one of those. I'll just leave it an email. You can send an email on failure to each search owner. You can toggle that on or off. And then recipients, this is where you would create the email address for whoever you're going to send it to. And so like js@sumologic.com. Okay, I'm just putting that as an example because I'm going to not save this. All right, and then search results. Search name, you can define the email subject, however you want that to appear to them. And then you can also send the results as a CSV attachment if you want to. So now if I were really wanting to create this, I would hit save and save the information as I've set it up. But in my case, I'm just going to cancel out of it because I don't really want to create the alert in this training environment. So that's basically this lab. So now, let me look. Any questions on that lab in particular? Everybody good on setting up alerts? So the last thing is Part 7, getting help. So this is just basically walking you through all the ways that you can receive help. And this is also going to be important because the next part of this will be taking the certification test. And thank you for hanging in there with me today and being able to do the certification. So what we're going to have here is with the getting help is the many different ways. So you're going to check out where we have release notes, Doc Hub. You're going to walk through and visit the Learn page, post questions on Sumo Logic, and how to get access to our customer Slack channel. So you can join our Sumo Slack channel and contact support. So I'm going to let you go through this lab at your own pace. And I'm going to go ahead and talk through, after you're done with this lab, how to take the test. So let me talk through that. So those of you might finish, at different rates and be ready. So in order to do the test, okay, it is a fundamental certification test that you're getting certified for today. That's what we've covered is Sumo Fundamentals. In order to get credit for your exam, you want to make sure that you log onto your own instance. That means your company account, not this training account. So you want to you can open another browser. For example, if you want to leave the training environment open, I have mine in Firefox, so you could open up a Chrome window or an Internet Explorer and go to taking the exam, logging in through your own account. The online exam is a 30 multiple choice questions. You've got 1 hour to do it. You can, if you don't pass it today for some reason, you don't get a passing score at 75, then you can do 3 attempts so in order to pass it. And this is certification is good for 2 years. So now how do you get into it? So this is how you get into it. So, oh, excuse me, that's not how you get into it. Hang on. Oh, this is how you get into it, I'm sorry. Over here to the right. So once you've logged onto your own account, once again, get out of the training environment. Don't do the certification in the training environment because it won't attach to your name to give you credit. And you would just go here and you would click on the certification tab back at the top. So if I'll show it in the training environment, but once again, don't do it in the training environment because you won't get credit for it, because it's a generic training environment. Click on certification, and then you would click on take the exam. But do this from your own account. So any questions, let me know. I'll be monitoring the chat Q&A, and let me know if you have any issues or anything. And please, if you have any questions, just let me know. If you have any trouble with the lab, with the help lab, but if you're ready to also get started, now you have the information for how to go in and take the certification test. And good luck, and I'll be here monitoring, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.